Major funding for Market to Market is provided by Deere & Company on behalf of John Deere dealers and by this and other public television stations. Additional funding is provided by Friends of Iowa Public Television and the Central Educational Network.
In the West, a crackdown on farm employers. In the East, angry fallout from a growth industry.
Why are you not standing there with your heads held in shame?
And in the heartland, heat takes its toll.
We've had this farm here for 50 years, and this is the worst it's ever been.
Those stories and more next.
This is the Friday, July 14 edition of Market to Market, the weekly journal of rural America.
Hello, I'm Mark Pearson. High humidity and soaring temperatures are staples of summer in the Midwest. But this past week, the two meteorological components combined with deadly force.
Yesterday afternoon, so from here on until it cools down, it's a very critical time for us.
Triple-digit temperatures and humidity climbing into tropical levels have claimed thousands of cattle and hundreds of thousands of poultry. Rendering plants are running near capacity to pick up and process livestock carcasses. Volunteer fire departments in some communities rolled out pumper trucks to try to cool livestock in unshaded feedlots. Even as grain analysts calculate the impact of the heat on corn and soybean crop prospects, the dry conditions are pushing the wheat harvest of '95 onward.
The harvest is beginning to accelerate across the wheat belt for a couple of reasons. The weather is finally cooperating, and the crop is a lot smaller than predicted. 43% of the winter wheat crop is now in the bin. That compares to 73% last year at this time, and the 64% average. And in confirming what's long been suspected, the USDA this week pegged the winter wheat crop at just 1.53 billion bushels, down 5% from the June estimate. The agency also lowered its projection of the corn harvest to 7.79 billion bushels, down 110 million bushels from the June guess. In each case, the wheat and corn revisions were proof the wet spring weather had an impact on the growth in the wheat crop and on the planting of the corn crop. The reduction in corn acres explains, in part, the increase in expected soybean acres. USDA is forecasting the soybean crop at 2.24 billion bushels, up 30 million bushels from the June projection. And the cotton crop remains on seasonal averages. The 14 major cotton-producing states report 75% of the crop squared compared to the 72% average. Reaction to the crop reports of the Chicago Board of Trade was negligible since the market already had factored weather and yield concerns into prices. Wheat futures edged up to the $4.50 level. Corn futures traded at the $2.85 mark. A bigger price reaction might occur next month when the season's first field surveys reflect whether hot temperatures are affecting yields. Currently, 2/3 of the nation's corn crop is rated good to excellent.
The specter of smaller crops also has raised concern about grain reserves, which have dwindled to 20-year lows. Economists are sticking by predictions of a 3% increase in food prices over the next year, barring further crop disasters. Still, sluggish food costs have been a drag on overall inflation in recent years, and any increase in prices will impact the economy. Stay tuned.
Garbage in, garbage out could be hazardous to your health. Feeding undercooked garbage to hogs may sicken people. While most garbage fed to hogs is from bakery products and fruit and poses little human health risk, a USDA study says if garbage like plate waste is not properly cooked, it could spread common bacteria that causes food poisoning in humans. The Swine Health Act of 1980 prohibits feeding raw garbage to swine. People who want to offer cooked garbage must get a license and be subject to inspection.
First raising interest rates to slow growth and curb inflation, more recently cutting rates to keep the economy moving forward. The Federal Reserve strategy appears to be working. According to government numbers, inflation has been largely squeezed from the picture. Led by declining energy prices and the biggest drop in fruit prices in 15 years, prices at the wholesale level last month fell for the first time in 8 months. June consumer prices rose a modest 0.1%. For the year, inflation is running at the rate of 3.2%. And in a sign of economic recovery, retail sales rose for the second straight month. Aside from the weather in farm country, the news focused less on numbers and more on labor, boardroom conduct, government regulation, and prospects for a new trade partner.
I believe normalization and increased contact between Americans and Vietnamese will advance the cause of freedom in Vietnam, just as it did in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union.
Within hours of President Clinton's decision to normalize relations with Vietnam, U.S. businesses were seeking incentives that would allow them to compete with their counterparts in Asia and Europe. American businesses began setting up shop in Vietnam more than a year ago when a trade embargo was lifted. But opposition to normalization is still expected to spill over into Congress, where debate may soon begin on whether Vietnam should be granted most favored nation status.
We don't treat it seriously because it's just pigs.
In North Carolina, angry citizens grilled state officials over recent hog and poultry waste spills. 35 million gallons of waste have spilled into area rivers in recent weeks when the earthen dam surrounding 3 separate waste lagoons broke, spilling into area rivers and killing thousands of fish.
By allowing what's happened in eastern North Carolina in the last 10 or 15 years, why are you not standing there with your heads held in shame? Why don't you have your heads bowed in shame?
State officials admit they weren't prepared for the spills and say they will review regulations governing the large livestock operations. According to the Wall Street Journal, an Archer Daniels Midland Company executive helped the government clandestinely tape record conversations of fellow executives as well as meetings with competitors for their antitrust investigation. The FBI says ADM is the subject of an investigation of price fixing on its global sales of sweeteners and other food and feed additives, including its market for high fructose corn syrup, of which ADM holds roughly 1/3 of the multi-billion-dollar market. Other companies, including Cargill, have been subpoenaed in the investigation, but only ADM has been subjected to search warrants and file searches. Surrounded by California farm workers, U.S. Labor Secretary Robert Reich this week pledged to crack down on labor law violations in the fields.
And making sure that, again, irresponsible growers and irresponsible farm labor contractors are brought to justice.
Reich listened as field hands told stories of growers who violated the law by not providing pay documentation or not paying as much as promised. The Labor Department says it has assessed nearly $2.1 million in penalties and back wages for the nation's migrant workers during the 6 months ending in March.
A new proposal quietly floating through the House Agriculture Committee may indicate vows to cut government spending are edging toward reality. The Des Moines Register reports Committee Chairman Pat Roberts is circulating a plan that would decouple government farm subsidies from production. Under the proposal, farmers who have participated in government programs would sign 7-year contracts with the government and receive predetermined payments no matter what they grow. Such a proposal would likely save the government billions and phase out 50-year-old government supply management policies. Stay tuned.
Threatened, but no longer endangered. The American bald eagle has come back from the brink of extinction and is now off the endangered species list. Bald eagle populations doubled every 6 to 7 years since the late 1970s, when major efforts were underway to protect it. Surveys show there are now some 4,500 nesting pairs, up from a one-time low of 417 pairs. The pesticide DDT was blamed for most of the demise of the eagle population by weakening offspring's eggshells.
In the next 14 years, more than 3.3 million students are expected to graduate from high school. But it's already difficult for many students to graduate from traditional colleges in 4 years. Required course offerings are limited and demand is growing. And then there is the job market, a challenge for which students sometimes are ill-prepared. Fortunately, a form of educational institution has been quietly evolving over the past 30 years, doubling in number. These institutions are close to communities and are in touch with the ever-changing job market. In fact, many routinely forge partnerships with business and industry. As producers Jim Kay and Sid Sprecher found last winter, these institutions with increasing frequency are preparing the next generation for an expanding number of occupations in agriculture. Jeannie Campbell reports.
From the pine forests of the southeast to the corn and hog belt of the nation's breadbasket, to mountain streams and high desert rangelands, the practitioners of production agriculture, with increasing frequency, come from the nation's 1,500 community colleges. In the past 19 years, enrollment has increased by more than 1.7 million students, or 44%. The reason is simple: jobs and careers. John Pearsall of Lake City Community College in Florida thinks the key to success for his school, as well as small colleges across the country, is the emphasis on teaching rather than research.
What is that?
I know.
What is it?
You want me to shout? Our mission is training and in teaching. And so when students come here, they have smaller class sizes, they have a direct one-to-one relationship with an instructor who has a degree and practical experience in that field. The other thing that's very good about community colleges and our program in particular is we represent industry and education working together to put out a professional product.
Lake City Community College offers 1-, 2-, and 3-year programs in turf equipment management, landscape technology, and golf course operations.
We've gone over how you use the rotoscope in the classroom, but now we need to put it in some practical application out here in the forest.
It also has a 3-year program in forestry. Students from across the southeastern U.S. have been drawn to Lake City by the teachers, by the hands-on approach to learning, and by the school's placement record.
The students can't just go through, take some academic classes, and graduate from our program. That's one of the reasons the students are so much in demand, because they've had practical experience along with it.
A year ago, the school had 7 graduates in turf equipment management and received more than 50 job offers.
We were sold out. This year we hope to graduate about 25, but I know without any problem we could place 100 a year if we had them.
Pearsall says in his 20 years at Lake City, the school has a 100% placement record. That kind of assurance, plus the emphasis on teaching, are part of what drew landscape students Sean Boyle and Ann Hampton to the school.
They're attitudes that you're here to learn, not that you're here to be tested necessarily and be graded, but that they want you to learn. And even if if something happened and you did do bad on something, at least you learn from, they're real supportive and they care about their students.
Ann's right. I mean, you have to know what you're in for. I mean, you just can't go to school and just jump out there, and not know what to expect. At least, kind of know what to expect when you do go out in the real world.
At Kirkwood Community College in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the response to the changing profile of the pork industry was to build this state-of-the-art confinement facility and then wire it for the information age.
We think it's going to be a really good avenue for information to pass to a variety of producers.
The Kirkwood facility is a 100-sow unit that will produce about 2,000 head a year. Where it differs is in its technical approach, with an emphasis on efficiency. Students or producers wanting the latest information can view from a nearby classroom live demonstrations telecast from the confinement buildings.
So it was important for us to put cameras strategically located throughout the production facility that could be accessed by the instructor in the classroom.
The logical extension from there was to put cameras back in the classroom to make the system interactive. From the classroom, the signal can go to the college's Master Control Center and then be transmitted to neighboring counties, across the nation, or around the world. Despite the fact it is mostly desert, southern Idaho is one of the nation's hot spots for aquaculture. The Snake River and aquifer provide abundant high-quality water. Much of the nation's commercial trout, as well as other species, come from the region, as do many of the industry's managers.
Yeah, give him a big kiss. Thank you.
The College of Southern Idaho boasts perhaps the nation's best program for training those who seek careers in aquaculture.
It was started basically by the desire of the industry
to attract or to try and acquire some technical or trained people to help fit or fill in between the four-year graduate and the unskilled labor off the street.
The one-year program is intense. Students literally spend all day and occasional weekends at the college's combined hatchery and training facility. There they learn aquaculture, hands-on, from spawn to fillet.
Culture methodologies, different stocking rates, flow patterns of facilities, different types of facilities.
The depth of the program produces a placement rate of 75%. Many enter the workforce immediately, some continue their education at four-year schools, and notably, some students already have four-year degrees. They've enrolled in the community college program to get practical postgraduate experience. In Utah, Applied Technical Centers, or ATCs, are an ambitious attempt to bridge the gap between high school and the job market. The Davis ATC, one of 5 in Utah, is a one-stop center for vocational education. The center boasts state-of-the-art technology and instructors who are available throughout the day. A host of technical courses is offered in modules, so students with jobs can acquire additional skills in their field on an as-needed basis. But the strength of the ATC is in its faculty, some of whom are seldom in the building. For example, Ray Little runs an outreach program to 35 area farm families. His farm and ranch management program introduces families like the Hamlins and the Calls to computers. For Little, the computers are tools to help students develop decision-making skills.
Through the tracking on our incomes and our expenses, we can see that there's more money generated income from our row crops than what we was able to with cattle.
Now you're comfortable with these monthly reports and your tax reports. Let's take a look at some real management decisions. And let's have you start taking some inventories, and let's start taking a look at management-wise, where is your operation making you money, which enterprise possibly is breaking even, or which enterprise is maybe losing you money.
The success of any community or small college also is important to restocking the dwindling number of qualified technical workers, and in the process, dismantling the image of community colleges as second-rate.
A lot of people think that an AA degree or AS degree isn't as good as a bachelor's and all these kind of things. That's just not true in our industry. Employers call wanting a Lake City graduate because they are well-trained, properly trained. And we didn't really try to spread our reputation around the country, around the world. That happened on its own.
Next, the Market-to-Market Report.
The grain markets were sharply higher as hot weather gripped the grain belt. Concerns about quantity and quality boosted wheat prices. For the week, wheat prices were up 20 cents in Chicago. Corn prices finished 9 cents higher. Soybean prices closed more than 13 cents higher for the week, while soybean meal gained $6 per ton. New crop cotton futures finished the week down 59 cents. And in livestock, fed cattle futures were down $2.25. Feeder cattle for the week were down 88 cents, while hog futures gained 25 cents. In the financials, COMEX gold gained $2.90 an ounce. The German mark was up 7 points against the dollar, and the CRB index finished the week virtually unchanged, closing at 233.75. Here now to lend us his insight is one of our regular market analysts, Jim Sigmon. Jim, welcome
Mark.
back. Let's talk first. The wheat market certainly has had some strength this week, even as the harvest did get moving finally. But there's concerns about the lightweight wheat and wheat problems and everything else, and pretty much a tight world supply.
That's right. I think the last thing is the most important, the tight world supply. Plus we have a crop that's coming in out of condition or under condition. Yields are not that great, and frankly it looks like that after we get the crop in, get some of the few hedge pressure off here, we will see higher priced wheat. The board, and I think it's very likely that when we get around and get the wheat in the bin, that you're going to see wheat possibly rally up to near $5 wheat in Chicago. We've already seen some of that, near that in Kansas City. Higher wheat prices are definitely in the making. Now the question is, how high is high? We could get up to near 20-year highs, but we're going to have a wall-to-wall wheat planted next year. So for the hedger, I think he might be looking at doing some hedging, particularly as we get into the fall in the 96 crop in the wheat.
Okay, so take advantage two crops at once, maybe.
Right.
All right. As you look at the corn market, again, also up this week. A lot of concern about the heat, the lateness of the crop in the western corn belt, some of these other factors. It looks awfully bullish right now for the corn crop. That's pretty dangerous right now, isn't it?
It's easy to be bullish, but when you go and look in the field, even the crop looks pretty good. I think what we've really got to talk about is the race between maturity and the first killing frost for both wheat, or corn and beans here. That first killing frost, is it going to come before that crop matures? And nobody knows that yet. But this is going to be a very exciting fall. As far as next week, with a 6 to 10 day forecast, look more like normal temperatures, normal precipitation to take some of this heat out of there, we could see prices start to fall back. We have a tasseling week coming up here in about 2 weeks. And I think that's when we're looking for that, and the weather as we go into that right now looks pretty favorable. So we may have a temporary top here in the corn market. I would see the corn market start to top out here in the next 2 weeks, head back down, but not taking out the 270. Probably trade somewhere between 280 and 270 in the month of August, and then head up and after Labor Day, as we start to build in a frost premium, start to worry about frost. I can't predict frost, but it's going to be a big worry. And we could then see the demand side of this market take over as we have a 20-year low in the supply of wheat to usage ratio worldwide. And we could see that market start to head up, and that may head up all the way into June. Now, we've got a potential for a real serious situation here. If we really turn into an early frost, we could see some food disruptions around the world, not in the United States, but around the world, because the stocks are so short on a worldwide basis, 26% below a year ago.
All right, so what are you telling your clients to do? What do we do here?
We're at the time here as we go into pollination when we usually hit a high. We're going to be 50% sold at least, and some people at this 280 to 290 area, the market hasn't been able to get up above 290 yet. It's tried several times but hadn't been able to hold that. If you could sell 50% there, do it. Some folks, I wouldn't have any argument about going to 75. I wouldn't want to be over 75% sold here, and then I would look for that down after we set that ear in pollination down into that Labor Day time period when we should have that pre-harvest low. Then we'll be thinking about lifting those hedges at that time, depending on how the whole situation looks at that particular point.
All right, what about the situation as far as beans are concerned? Same thing?
Well,
would you be half sold on beans?
Yeah, we should be half sold around the 15th of the month, or about 637. Now, that's coming right, those time and prices coming together just about right. Now, the calls I'm getting from the farmers, there seems to be a lot more concern about the beans, and the beans making it to maturity before frost than the corn. The beans crop seems to be extremely small and immature for this time of year. So we could have really more action there to start with than in the corn. But again, we're looking for a situation that could take us down into pre-harvest lows somewhere around Labor Day, and that market could rally. A rally could then take us all the way into June in the beans. 650 is a real good possibility on the upside, and depending on how this crop matures, we could see considerably higher prices than that.
Are you going to sell 2 bean crops?
I sure would consider it, because I think beans, corn, wheat, we're going to see wall-to-wall planting next year. We're going to see more CRP acres. We're going to see less government programs. It looks like the hedging needs to be done on this next rally.
Quickly over on cotton this week, again, a little bit softer in December. There's been some crop problems there, and obviously there's been huge demand for cotton worldwide. Where are we headed? Look at the December, at the new crop contract.
Well, while there's been some local crop problems, again, we're in a world market. The world crop stocks are going to increase this year. The world crop looks pretty good. The charts have taken out the highs and have started a downtrend. I think we are going to see cotton back up a little, about to the 70-cent area. That should hold it for this time. Maybe take a bounce back up into the low 80s. Anything at around 70 cents is a good buy opportunity for the millers, the processors, and anything above 80 cents is where the hedgers, the producers, should be looking at doing some selling.
All right, let's go over livestock quickly. You know, a lot of concerns about all the heat this week, and not so much with the death loss, but certainly in terms of affecting gains. It's not going to help us out at all in the fourth quarter. Talk about hogs first. They're the ones that they seem to be most concerned about when it gets into October, November, December.
Well, I think that this week we built in about $1.50 heat premium, which we're probably going to lose next week. We're took 50 cents off on Friday. We're looking to take $1 off on Monday, which is just really getting rid of the heat premium. You can see what happened is the price of hogs came up, but the price of the product didn't move. It's starting to back up. Hogs continue to worry me back into the last quarter. We saw that last pig crop report. We need another liquidation phase in the hogs, and frankly, with higher priced grain, those livestock producers are going to take it in the shorts. And so we're going to see some livestock liquidation. We need to reduce our feed usage about 7.2 million bushels, and that means we're going to have to get rid of some animals. So while that's bad news for the short term, the last quarter of this year, particularly for those producers and those mega producers that are buying all their grains and hiring their labor, there's probably going to be some real pain and suffering, but that's going to make the last half of 1996 and looking into 1997 more profitable years for the livestock business.
All right, let's talk about that independent guide. Is it worth his while to go out there and hedge those October hogs quickly?
I sure think so. Anytime up near 42 in that October hog, resistance at 42.20, any up in that market near $42, let's get at least 75% of our production hedged in the October, in December, and maybe a few in the November. I'm not going out much past that because there's always a question when this liquidation phase is going to come.
Real quick, over on the cattle, what are you going to see for the next 10 days?
Well, the cattle are going to continue to weaken up on a seasonal basis, but maybe not as bad as originally predicted. Cattle prices this week should be 62 to 62.5. Last week was 63. So I think we are going to see probably get down to 61 and then into 60. That should hold there. We should have the majority of the cattle marketing's out of the way. Now what happens after that depends on how much the livestock liquidation continues to face the whole industry.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. That'll wrap up this edition of Market to Market. Be sure to join us again next week when we examine the potential of an emerging agricultural technology. Until then, I'm Mark Pearson. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.
Market to Market is a production of Iowa Public Television, which is solely responsible for its content. Partial funding for this program is provided by Friends of Iowa Public Television and the Central Educational Network. Major funding is provided by this and other public television stations and by Deere & Company on behalf of John Deere Dealers.